Hi everyone, this is Charles Damiano here again for another episode of Show and Tell, where I'm going to share with you one of my rare Bruce Lee items from my Bruce Lee collection. Today I'm going to talk about a book that's very significant about Bruce Lee because it came out in 1963 and it was one of the first books that Bruce Lee wrote, and it's over 55 years old. This book was printed back in Oakland, and only 500 copies of this book was ever printed. And when I heard about this book coming out back in the early 70s, I remember I was studying Wing Chun and someone said, hey, does anyone know where you can pick up this book that was written by Bruce Lee? There's only 500 copies that came out. I did everything in my power to try to find this book. So I ran to Chinatown to my favorite store on Canal Street and I picked up a couple of copies. And I picked up these and I bought as many as I could at the time. Because at the time, at 13, 14 years old, I thought I found the original first book that Bruce Lee ever wrote called Chinese Gung Fu, The Philosophical Art of Self-Defense by Bruce Lee. And I was so excited at 14 years old to think I was in possession of the original copy, only to find out years later that I didn't have the original copy, because the original copy has writing on the spine that actually says Chinese Gung Fu, The Philosophical Art of Self-Defense by Bruce Lee. It's also not glued together, and this copy is glued together. The original has staples, and there's different advertisements in this book than there is in the one that I'm going to show you in a second. So, a lot of differences. I'm still really excited to have this book because at the time, I believe this book was one of the first reprints that came out on the book. And then since then, over the last 55 years, there's been dozens of different reprints that came out on this book. So I have 5 copies of this one, which is not the original. But now I'd like to show you the original Chinese Gung Fu, The Philosophical Art of Self-Defense, which I picked up on eBay many, many years ago. Now I'm always looking to improve the condition of this. So I have this one. Now this is the original copy that Bruce Lee wrote back in 1963, 55 years ago. And I'm going to take this out of the plastic bag and just show you the differences of this book. It's not in the best condition. It's very, very difficult to find this book in really mint condition because think of it, it's 55 years old, only 500 copies came out, and it's old paper. So lots probably have gotten destroyed. If you weren't a collector back then, you probably read the book and then tossed it. This person who had the book did a lot of doodling in the book, so unfortunately there's a lot of... So my copy has a lot of doodling in the book, so it's not in the greatest of condition, as you can see. And what makes it original is that it has writing here on the spine of the book, which is a square back spine, and it actually says Chinese Gung Fu, The Philosophical Art of Self-Defense by Bruce Lee. Another way to tell that it's original is that if you open up the book, again, a lot of pen writing in it, you'll see 2 staples here, one here and one here. That's how they bound the book at the time. And some other differences in the book is that the ads are somewhat different in the book as well. And there's a really interesting ad in here which shows something that Bruce Lee was selling at the time. It's called The Tao of Gongfu, a study on the way of Chinese martial art, an essay by Bruce Lee. And he was selling this essay back in 1963 for $2, which a lot of people were doing at the time through mail order businesses. And as you could see how Bruce Lee was trying to think back then, he was really trying to promote his style of fighting back then. So this is a very, very rare book. I'm really excited to have this in my collection. Chinese Gung Fu, The Philosophical Art of Self-Defense by Bruce Lee. One other thing I want to point out about the book is how impressed everyone was of Bruce Lee's skill at the time. Even at the age of 23 when he wrote this book, you know, he had endorsements in the book by Ed Parker, who was renowned Kempo karate champion at the time. Also James Lee, who wrote the book on Wing Chun back then, who was also a very good friend of Bruce Lee. And also Wally J, head instructor of Island Judo and Jiu-Jitsu Club in California at the time, who was also a black belt. And he ends by saying, Master Bruce Lee, who is a gentleman, can actually apply his seemingly gentle method in actual application. I have seen him perform, and the grace and agility of a panther, and with lightning speed. He is truly a master of a great style of Chinese fighting. Even back then at 23, it just shows you the path that Bruce Lee was on in achieving greatness. So again, this is Charles Damiano from the Bruce Lee Collection saying have fun collecting, and remember to subscribe, like, and comment on the channel. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. We have a lot more exciting ones coming up. Take care.